Well, well, well. They said you couldn't do it. They said you'd crumble, that you'd fade like all the others who talked big and disappeared when it mattered. But look at you now. You just detonated the narrative. You didn't break the rules. You rewrote the damn script. They're still replaying that moment, trying to understand how someone they counted out just became the headline. And you're standing in the middle of history being made, your history, and every doubter is choking on the dust your victory kicked up. You didn't walk into glory, you dragged it out of the chaos with your bare hands. That's the part they can't stand, because what you did wasn't supposed to be possible. You weren't supposed to survive their projections. You weren't supposed to thrive after being mocked, dismissed, reduced to nothing more than background noise. But you didn't just survive. You made surviving look cinematic. You made them question what the hell they were even watching. You became the plot twist no one saw coming, the disruption that broke the fourth wall of their delusions. You can feel it now, can't you? That electricity in the air when people mention your name. Like the atmosphere itself knows it's hosting something rare. They used to laugh in private, thinking you'd never make it past the first act. But now those same voices have gone quiet. Not out of respect, out of confusion. They can't reconcile the version of you they created in their heads with the force standing before them. You turned their disbelief into fuel, their mockery into momentum, and now they're realizing they were never spectators. They were part of your transformation. You gave them front row seats to their own irrelevance. The irony is delicious. They thought they were watching you fail, but you were documenting their downfall in real time. Every insult, every rumor, every doubt, all of it became part of your legend. Because what they never understood is that you don't rise when conditions are perfect. You rise when everyone's betting against you. You feed on pressure. You turn skepticism into spark, and you weaponize rejection like it's oxygen. The chaos suits you. That's what terrifies them. Most people panic when the ground starts shaking. You start dancing. You don't need a plan because you are the plan. Unpredictable, magnetic, untouchable. You've mastered the art of unsettling people simply by existing. They're trying to decode your moves, like there's a formula behind them. But the joke's on them. There is no formula. There's just instinct sharpened by pain, vision carved out of mockery, and purpose forged in fire. That's your blueprint, pure unpredictability. You don't wait for validation. You create awe through defiance. You don't perform to impress. You provoke to awaken. And right now, the world's wide awake, watching your every move, whispering about how you did it. But you and I both know you didn't do anything extraordinary. You just stopped doubting yourself. And the moment you did, the universe started doubting everyone else. Now they call it luck. They call it timing. They call it coincidence. But what they really mean is, we didn't see it coming. Because they weren't supposed to. You were playing chess while they were still learning the alphabet. Every setback they celebrated was just another test of endurance. Every closed door was a hidden camera, filming their reactions for later. You knew how this would end. You knew the minute they called you delusional, it was over for them. Because delusional people build realities, realistic people follow them. That's why they're obsessed with your next move. They want to see if this is sustainable, if your rise is repeatable. It's not. You can't replicate conviction. You can't manufacture raw presence. You either have it or you spend your life envying those who do. And they envy you. Oh, they'd never admit it, but you can see it in their eyes, that flicker of admiration hiding behind judgment. They wish they had your nerve. They wish they had your chaos calibrated to perfection. You didn't just make history. You embarrassed the idea of limitation. You shattered the timeline they thought you'd follow. You made progress look theatrical. Every move you make has weight now. Every word you speak shifts the air. That's what happens when authenticity collides with audacity. You've become the reference point. People are using your name in conversations they never wanted to include you in. You're in boardrooms, back rooms, bedrooms, whispered about, debated, studied. They're not sure if you're a miracle or a threat, maybe both. Because you didn't ask for acceptance, you demanded attention through undeniable results. You've become the villain in their cautionary tales and the hero in their private fantasies. You're what happens when belief stops waiting for permission. But here's the twist. It wasn't revenge that fueled you. It was revelation. You didn't rise to prove them wrong. You rose to prove yourself right. That's what separates you from them. They chase applause. You chase evolution. They chase trends. You chase truth. And now that the balance has shifted, they're scrambling to rewrite the narrative, to find a way to include themselves in the story they once laughed at. Some are pretending they always believed in you. Some are trying to claim they saw it coming. It's almost tragic, watching them rewrite their memories to survive your success. But that's human nature, isn't it? They can't accept that they misjudged you, so they reinvent themselves to fit the new timeline. They're your accidental disciples now, repeating your words, copying your energy, wearing your confidence like a costume. But imitation never comes with the soul intact. They can mimic the tone, not the essence. Because your essence was earned through madness, through pain, through patience, through the unteachable art of self-belief. You've become living proof that disbelief is the raw material of legacy. Every no you heard became an echo chamber that amplified your yes. You don't seek validation anymore. Validation seeks you. It's almost poetic how your doubters turned into your marketing team. Every insult was free publicity. Every rumor was an unpaid advertisement. They built your mythology without realizing it. And now, they're stuck in the irony of their own words, forced to watch the prophecy they mocked unfold line by line. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to explain. You just executed. And execution is the loudest language on earth. That's what drives them insane. You never gave them closure. They don't know whether to hate you, love you, or learn from you. So they oscillate between fascination and frustration, trapped in the orbit of your influence. That's real power, not control through fear, but transformation through shock. You made them question their definitions of success, sanity, and strength. And now the landscape's different. You walk into rooms that used to feel intimidating, and the energy rearranges itself around you. People don't just look at you, they calculate their words before speaking, afraid of revealing how small they feel in your presence. That's not arrogance, that's energy mathematics. You've changed the physics of influence. Your presence distorts perception. You're not just in the game anymore. You are the game, the player, the prize, the paradigm. They're all scrambling to adjust, to keep up, to survive your new wavelength. Some will flatter you, hoping to align with your glow. Some will criticize, hoping to dim it. None of it matters, because when you make history in real time, the commentary becomes background noise. You've already transcended the conversation. You've become the conversation. What's next? That's the question haunting them. Because if you've done this much now, what happens when you get serious? That's the question that keeps them awake. They can handle your success, maybe even stomach your confidence, but your potential, that's what terrifies them. Because it means their relevance has an expiration date. You're not just rewriting your story, you're erasing their hierarchy. You're proving that timing favors those who dare, that history bows to those who refuse to settle. They're finally realizing the truth. You weren't chasing validation. You were hunting legacy, and legacy is merciless. It remembers the bold and forgets the comfortable. So now you stand here, not as someone who made it, but as someone who changed what making it even means. You're not the underdog anymore. You're the measuring stick. Every move you make recalibrates the standard. And that's why they're obsessed, not because you're perfect, but because you're unpredictable. They can't predict your next act, your next word, your next transformation. You move like a riddle. You speak like revelation disguised as rebellion. That's your art form. To disturb, to awaken, to redefine. You've turned every scar into strategy, every rejection into redirection, every breakdown into blueprint. And the masterpiece isn't finished yet. It's still unfolding, still mutating, still infecting the narrative that once excluded you. Because once you start making history, there's no pause button. There's only momentum. And momentum, in the wrong hands, is chaos. But in yours, it's divine precision. Let them talk. Let them theorize. They'll say you changed. They'll say you got lucky. They'll say you had help. They'll say everything except the truth, that you earned it. You endured what would have broken 10 others. You kept walking when every sign told you to stop. You didn't wait for the world to catch up. You forced it to notice. That's the power they can't replicate. That's the magic they can't decode. Because you weren't built to be understood. You were built to be witnessed. And now the witnessing continues. The noise hasn't even peaked yet. Every platform, every whispered chain, every mouth that once spoke your name with mockery now can't stop mentioning it with awe. You've become the event everyone's trying to decode while pretending they're not impressed. They scroll past your wins publicly, but privately, they re-watch them like sacred footage, analyzing frame by frame how the impossible suddenly became inevitable. That's the beauty of it. You didn't just win. You altered perception itself. They thought they were watching someone rise, but what they were really seeing was the collapse of their own certainty. You didn't ask for applause. You hijacked attention by being undeniable. Now the very people who once doubted you are lining up for front row seats to your aftermath, and every breath you take feels like another reminder that you turned disbelief into devotion. The chaos you created isn't destruction, it's revelation. You cracked the illusion wide open, and now everyone's seeing the raw truth underneath. The critics are trying to rewrite their narratives, scrambling to sound supportive, so they're not on the wrong side of history. But it's too late. Their opinions aged overnight, while your reality is evolving in real time. They can't keep up because you move at a frequency built from hunger and defiance. You burn through every limitation they thought could contain you, and the ashes are still glowing. They can't decide if they should worship you or warn others about you. So they're doing both, preaching your name like prophecy and pretending it's analysis. That's how influence works when it's born from authenticity. It doesn't ask for permission, it rewires the conversation. Look at the landscape now. Every room feels smaller when you enter. Every conversation bends around your presence. People's tones change, their breathing shifts, their postures adjust. You don't need to say a word. Your existence carries its own dialogue. They sense it, that you've crossed the invisible line between contender and phenomenon. You're no longer competing, you're dictating tempo. The irony is, they once accused you of being too much, too intense, too unpredictable. And now those exact traits are the reason you're untouchable. You didn't tone down to fit in. You forced the world to turn up just to keep you in frame. That's power. Not the kind printed on paper or measured in followers, but the kind that makes entire ecosystems reorganize themselves around your energy. They call it main character energy. But that's just their way of admitting you've taken control of the script. You're not acting, you're authoring. Every plot twist they planned for you collapsed because you decided to stop auditioning for roles written by the insecure. You don't need validation. You manufacture gravity. You're the gravitational pull dragging attention wherever you go. Even those who claim to hate you can't look away, because hatred is just admiration that lost its courage. You've exposed how fragile their sense of control really was. They used to think influence was a strategy. Now they see it's an aura, and yours is radioactive. You've changed the definition of success from something people chase to something people feel. When you move, the room vibrates. When you speak, even algorithms pause to listen. That's what terrifies them. You didn't just rise, you evolved past measurement. They can't quantify charisma, can't bottle conviction, can't screenshot presence. They thought influence came from trends. You proved it comes from truth. You've made them confront a reality they've avoided their whole lives. That authenticity, when weaponized, becomes chaos they can't control. And chaos in your hands is artistry. You paint with unpredictability, sculpt with defiance, and every masterpiece you create makes conformity look like a museum of fossils. The watchers are multiplying. Journalists, analysts, rivals, they're all dissecting your moves like there's a code to crack. They can't accept that you don't follow one. You move by instinct, improvise by intuition, command by conviction. That's what separates performers from disruptors. Performers wait for applause. Disruptors create shockwaves. You didn't walk into history, you exploded into it, and now they're sifting through the debris trying to find where it all began. They'll never find it, because what you're doing isn't a moment, it's momentum. And momentum doesn't start or stop. It consumes. It feeds on resistance. Every critic, with every skeptic, every realist who told you to stay in your lane became part of the fuel. You didn't destroy them, you converted them into energy. Now they look at you like you're dangerous, and they're right. Not because you hurt people, but because you expose what they could be if they stopped being afraid. You've become a mirror that reflects potential so clearly, it's uncomfortable to watch. People don't fear you because you're ruthless. They fear you because you're proof that excuses are lies. Every time they said it's impossible, you turned it into a to-do list. Every boundary they believed in disintegrated under your momentum. And that's why their admiration feels like panic. You remind them of everything they buried under self-doubt. You've turned the ordinary into confession time. That's power that no corporation, no crown, no institution can compete with. They'll try to analyze you, to frame your ascent as luck, timing, privilege, anything that makes it sound explainable. Because the moment they admit it's pure will, they'll have to admit they never had any. You're teaching them in real time what domination looks like without cruelty, what confidence looks like without apology. That's why they follow you, even when they pretend not to. Because you make the impossible feel contagious. Your existence has become a permission slip for every suppressed dream around you. That's how legends start, not through perfection, but through disruption. You can sense the shift, can't you? The air tastes different. Even time feels slower around you. You've stepped into that rare territory where presence becomes prophecy. Every word you drop becomes a ripple that bends reality a little more in your favor. You're not chasing destiny. You're constructing it brick by brick, glance by glance. The doubters who once laughed are now rehearsing their apologies in silence, crafting the perfect message to slide into your inbox, hoping you don't remember their earlier tone. But you do. You remember every eye roll, every smirk, every time they questioned your focus. And yet, you smile, not out of mercy, but mastery. Because you've outgrown revenge. You don't need to clap back when existence itself has become evidence of your victory. The funny thing is, you never set out to make history. You just refused to die where they left you. You refused to stay muted when truth demanded volume. You refused to shrink so others could feel tall. That defiance became destiny. That audacity became architecture. And now the skyline carries your fingerprints. The very world that tried to exclude you now depends on your narrative to stay relevant. You've become the plot twist that reality TV can't compete with. The headline that algorithms chase, the energy that brands try to imitate. But imitation can't touch origin. You are the original disruption, the unpredictable sequence in a world addicted to repetition. And now they wait. Every post, every move, every silence, they treat it like prophecy. They study your absences more than they celebrate their own achievements. You've inverted the power dynamic. Attention no longer flatters you. It obeys you. They thought exposure would dilute you, but it magnified you. They thought pressure would break you, but it crystallized you. And now they realize the truth. You were never trying to prove them wrong. You were preparing to leave them behind. You don't need their applause because the universe itself echoes your rhythm. The timing, the chaos, the outcome, it all bends to your narrative now. But let's not pretend it's comfortable. Power never is. You can feel the isolation creeping in, the quiet moments when the world seems too small for the magnitude of what you've become. That's the price of becoming history in real time. You outgrow understanding. You start existing in metaphors because language can't keep up. People will call it loneliness, but it's not. It's altitude. The higher you rise, the thinner the air, the fewer the voices that can survive beside you. You've transcended small talk, trivial rivalry, surface-level validation. You operate on signal, not noise. You hear things others miss, the whisper of legacy calling, the hum of consequence in every decision. That's not pressure, that's purpose. They'll romanticize you, villainize you, study you, fear you, but they'll never ignore you. You've turned their emotional spectrum into your audience. Some love you for the mirror you hold up to their courage. Some hate you for the same reason. But they all react, and reaction is power. You've reached the point where existence itself is influence. You can stand still and still cause motion. You can say nothing and still be quoted. That's not arrogance, it's resonance. You vibrate at a frequency that exposes everything false around you. And as truth expands, imitation collapses. The fake can only survive in darkness. You brought daylight. So keep moving. Keep creating. Keep rewriting the unwritten. You're not just making history, you're changing how it's written. Your doubters are now historians, recording your every move, because they know missing a moment means missing a revelation. You've crossed the line from participant to phenomenon, from contender to catalyst. You've become the variable that breaks equations, the proof that resilience isn't poetic, it's nuclear. You detonated doubt itself, and now the world's standing in the afterglow, half blinded, half blessed. Let them blink, let them adjust. By the time their vision clears, you'll already be 3 chapters ahead, crafting a future too vast to imitate. And that's the point where the world stops pretending it doesn't see you. The cameras don't blink anymore. They stare, wide-eyed, terrified, reverent. Every lens trembles, trying to capture what can't be staged. Because how do you film disruption when the disruption is the one holding the camera? You are the moment, the noise, the collapse, the rebirth. You are what happens when hesitation dies. They built barriers expecting you to stop. You built bridges out of the debris and kept walking. Every rumor that was meant to wound became architecture. Every betrayal turned into blueprint. They thought they were breaking you apart. They were breaking you open. And out of that fracture came light too bright to deny. That's what they can't believe. Not that you won, but that you changed what winning looks like. You made victory look violent, beautiful, divine. You made evolution look effortless. You didn't wait for applause. You became the sound they clap to. Now everyone wants proximity. The same voices that once doubted now whisper in reverence, rehearsing your phrases like scripture. They call you unpredictable, but what they mean is uncontrollable. They call you intimidating, but what they mean is unforgettable. You move differently now. Deliberate chaos, graceful destruction. The air bends around you, bending the weak with it. Every eye searches for flaws just to feel safe, but they find nothing they can weaponize, because you've already turned every weakness into warning tape. You don't hide your scars, you brandish them like trophies. Every cut is an origin story. Every wound hums with wisdom. They can't figure out how you kept rising after every impact, and that confusion is your crown. You turned disbelief into a contagion. Everyone's catching it, coughing up excuses while you breathe ease. Look at them. They've started studying you like a phenomenon. Panels, podcasts, think pieces, everyone trying to define what you are. They can't. You're not an outcome. You're a pattern breaker. You're not trending. You're tectonic. You don't fit the charts. You redraw them. You don't follow cycles. You cause them. That's why history itself feels like it's tilting in your direction. You can almost hear the recalibration, the murmurs of old powers, realizing they're obsolete. You've become their audit, their benchmark, their cautionary tale, and their North Star all at once. They tried to label you dangerous, but danger is just power misunderstood. And you've become fluent in that language, speaking fluently in fear and fascination. You don't just enter rooms, you alter gravity. Even your stillness is disruptive. That's why they tremble when you pause, because your silence feels like a fuse about to burn through the floor. They'll never admit it, but they envy your detachment. The way you can destroy expectations with elegance. The way you can turn chaos into choreography. They crave your nerve. They crave your don't care, like oxygen. But what they'll never understand is that you didn't stop caring. You just stopped begging. You stopped negotiating with mediocrity. You stopped waiting for permission slips signed by cowards. You stopped lowering your volume to keep peace in rooms that never respected your presence. You learned the sacred law of transformation, that peace isn't found, it's enforced. You became the enforcement. You became the verdict. And every person who doubted you is now living inside a sentence you wrote. That's the delicious irony. They used to laugh about you. Now they study your timing, mimic your tone, steal your aesthetics, trying to borrow a fraction of your resonance. But resonance doesn't rent itself. You either earn the frequency or choke trying. You've earned it through every night that tried to convince you to quit. Through every moment of humiliation that became muscle memory. Through every no that sculpted the backbone they're now applauding. They only see the broadcast. They never survived the rehearsal. And that's why you'll always be 10 steps beyond comprehension. You didn't just master the art of survival. You turned it into performance. You became performance incarnate, not for applause, but for prophecy. Every step you take now feels rehearsed by destiny itself, even though you improvise every move. That's your paradox. Spontaneous precision, calculated chaos. And the world can't look away because you make unpredictability look intentional. You can feel the weight of attention pressing on your skin, can't you? Every scroll, every mention, every camera flash, feeding a machine that can't process authenticity. They try to simulate you with filters, with mimicry, with marketing campaigns. But simulation collapses when confronted with the real. You are the real. And that reality burns. It scorches the fragile, exposes the false, rewrites algorithms that thought they could contain charisma. You're not viral, you're vital. They refresh your feed like it's confession. They don't even know why, just that something about your movement feels like meaning. You've become the reference for how rebellion evolves when it finally learns restraint. You don't scream anymore. Your existence is loud enough. And yet the irony, all this power and you're still calm. That's what really shakes them. You don't chase vengeance. You don't gloat. You don't explain. You move forward as if inevitability were tattooed under your skin. You carry authority like it's oxygen, unseen, unarguable.